Stay tuned for scenes from our next episode.
Assessing the damage, state leaders visited areas hit hard by this week's historic flooding.
Plus, a look at your weekend weather. Bob lets us know when we will dry out next.
I promise to have you.
And to hold.
They're a match made in murder. Alan Cumming and Bojana Novakovic star in Instinct. Premieres Sunday, March 18th on CBS.
First, fast, accurate. With Todd Connor and Dane Murray. You're watching WSBT 22 News at 11.
New at 11 tonight, as many of you continue to recover from rising floodwaters across the area, state and federal officials making stops here at home to survey the damage.
I spent part of the day touring the area with Indiana Governor Eric Holcomb. We'll have more on his response coming up. But first, our flooding team coverage begins with WSBT 22's Heather Black. And Heather, you joined Senator Joe Donnelly as he looked into the damage in South Bend.
That's right, Todd. Senator Donnelly and South Bend Mayor Pete Buttigieg came here to Emerson Avenue. And as you can see behind me, some homes are still in the flooded area. And the mayor says that this is one of the hardest hit areas in South Bend. Now, the St. Joseph County Emergency Management Agency was also joined to the pair. They spoke to nearby homeowners while looking at the damages. Mayor Pete says right now it's hard to see the real damages until the water goes down. The senator says seeing this firsthand will help with possible funding.
And I just know this, that we're a really special community, that everybody has each other's backs. And so we're going to work tirelessly to make sure we get everyone squared away.
And the St. Joseph County Emergency Management Agency were also here with the pair, like I said, and they are looking maybe by next week to hopefully gather volunteers and local organizations to help with the cleanup. Live in South Bend, Heather Black, WSBT 22 News.
We're all in. That's the word from Indiana Governor Eric Holcomb. He toured the most flooded parts of South Bend and Goshen today. The governor says many state agencies are involved, such as NDOT, which has been checking the integrity of roads and bridges. The Department of Homeland Security is also helping with the cleanup, and the governor has advice for you if you have damage.
You got to document everything and make sure those are going through the proper chain. Don't overlook anything. Take photographs. Write it down, make sure you're going on the websites and getting that information in. That's going to factor into what the thresholds are and if we meet certain state and federal standards. So don't overlook anything.
Take a look at your screen. These numbers where you can report flood damage in St. Joseph, Elkhart, and Marshall counties. You can also report damage to Indiana Department of Homeland Security through its website. Now, reporting is important because it can affect whether areas receive emergency assistance. And we have these numbers on WSBT.com, too. Click on the story called Resources Available for Flood Victims.
Happening right now, Berrien County is in a state of emergency. Nearly 180 people in Berrien Springs have been displaced from their homes. Those living in River Springs Estates had to evacuate earlier this week. Many of those people still hadn't had a chance to go back inside their homes and see what it looks like now. But the estate manager says, based on early estimates, she thinks about half of the homes are damaged beyond repair.
Good news tonight for those living near dams across the area. Indiana Michigan Power says the hydroelectric dams on the St. Joseph River are working like they are supposed to. The one in Berrien Springs is on a high flow emergency, and that's the lowest emergency level. The Buchanan Dam was removed from the emergency status overnight. Nearly 1,000 I&M customers had their power shut off because of the dangers of floodwater on their properties.
Good evening, everyone. I'm meteorologist Bob Warner, and those roiling floodwaters are pretty common all across Michiana. Current river levels are ranging anywhere from major flooding down to minor flooding across our area, and we'll get right to it. We'll try to show you the rivers in your particular region. First of all, you can see all these areas in green are river flood warnings currently in effect. We'll first start down at Plymouth with the Yellow River. The river there has peaked at well over the old record. We're well over 17 feet there now, but it's peaked and it's it's forecast to start declining over the next several days, although it will remain in that major flood category well into next week. So again, you're going to need to take precautions down in Plymouth. Taking a look at the Kankakee River at Davis. Here's a look at the flood stage again. It's raised well up to toward the major flood stage, but it's now tapering off somewhat and expected to decline slowly. That one's going to take several more days to get down to where it needs to be. The St. Joe River in several locations, first of all in South Bend, we peaked about 2 or 3 feet above the old record, and we're still well into the major flood stage, but again, it's slowly declining and expected to do so as we head into next week, but major flooding will continue for a couple more days. Same thing up at Niles. They beat the old record by several feet, and now we're projected to decline down into the moderate flooding category by Monday or so. So again, plenty of suffering up in Niles. And in Elkhart, the St. Joe River has peaked and is starting to decline as well. So there's some relief on the way, but still a major problem. Finally, we'll take a look at the Tippecanoe River down here around Winnemac, and you can see that river is still not peaked out. It's expected to peak right around the record level and continue for the next several days, so you folks are not out of the woods. Finally, in Goshen, where things were really bad this week, the peak was several days ago, and it's now declining, and it's down to the moderate flood stage in Elkhart, so there's definitely some relief there, but plenty of wetness all over Michiana. We'll have a full forecast for your weekend in just a few minutes.
All right, Bob, thank you. Local police are getting new access for mental health.
And it's coming with the help of Senator Joe Donnelly, who has been fighting for officers' well-being. WSBT 22's DJ Manu is here at the live desk, and DJ, the senator made this a priority.
Todd, he wants to make sure the men and women who